I'm joined with the victorious Isles after 2-0 against Shopify. Isles, both those games looked a little sketchy in the early game. Like it looked like Shopify were getting early game leads, but you guys kind of, were able to reverse that trend. So could you talk to me a little bit about the early games of those two games?
I mean, the first game, I usually this is kind of a weird situation where if you get level 3 ganked and you live, usually it's big smiles all around, and you get usually tend to get something on the other side or whatnot. But I think I just made it too easy in hindsight. I think our ward level 1 could have been better. We could have used Ash E to see Pantheon if we wanted to. We weren't really sure because Pantheon started sweeper, like what exactly he was doing. We thought he might be invading, which is why Wukong did it one topside camp and then crossed, which was kind of bad for Wukong. So we had like a lot of defensive measures, but I mean it could have been better. And I think I just was playing too aggressively and just disrespecting a bit. Obviously, I didn't die, but the wave ended up in a really bad spot, and it kind of just snowballed the bot matchup. Like obviously, sometimes when you get ganked at level 3 and the wave's coming to you, and one guy bases, like Ash was fine. Like sometimes Ash will just catch the wave and she'll be happy, and eventually you get paid back by jungle. But because of the fact that we didn't see what Pantheon did early and Wukong already kind of set himself behind, a lot of small things just added up, I think, which is what made game one so tough. Game two, though, I think I'm not sure about our draft, to be honest. I thought the Caitlyn matchup, bot lane, would be a lot easier than it actually was. It seemed like at a lot of points, like pre-first base, when Caitlyn got her BF sword and whatnot, and like pre and post, I suppose, it felt like Caitlyn was literally just 1v2ing us, and Bud could do whatever he wanted. If he wanted to win lane harder, he could have. If he wanted to roam more, he could have. Like, if there was any like top dive or something that was available when Renekton hit 6 first Gnar, that could have been something Bard could have thought about. That's a pattern I've seen a lot in the past where Renekton has push on the wave where he hits 6. He hits 6 on the tower and just dives the Gnar before he hits 6. That's something that can happen for sure. And I think maybe if Bard was playing a bit more heads up or SR was a bit more heads up as a team, maybe they could find more opportunities like this to utilize the Bard. But I really didn't think in draft it was going to be a problem. But in game, it did feel kind of tough.
Interesting. The casters were mentioning how rough that lane is supposed to be, and they actually felt like you guys did a pretty good job at not losing lane as hard as you should have in that game
hmm
two draft.
I mean, CS is like the easiest metric to look at, right? But when you're in the game and I feel the fact that bot is everywhere and I'm nowhere, it does feel a little annoying when I hit tab and I look Kaelin's 10 CS up and she's standing in the first bush and bot is just in fog and we have no idea what's going on. And even if bot shows, nothing's gonna happen to Kaelin. So I mean it's true that we had like a really, really big scaling advantage in bot lane. That's obviously what led to SR's downfall, I think, was obviously Junara was unstoppable at some point, but I do think maybe we'll have to think more about the Caitlyn matchup. In the past, when we played it against C9, I guess in game one, we played Caitlyn Neeker. It definitely like felt good, but I'm not. I mean, playing against it feels really tough. I think obviously it feels different when you're playing it, but against it, it did feel really hard to play against Bod. In mid game, I think at some point SR had no more options. Yunara was too fed, and I got 2 items for free. I think once Lulu buys 2 items in this situation, it's really hard to kill Yunara anymore. Australia's and Mikhail's both really, really good defensive options, but I mean, I think their draft was really not bad at all.
I've been interested in Lions drafts. Last week, you guys opened Oriana, which I feel like no team does that. Um, obviously you guys took the Nocturne, but you kind of still gave the Oriana in game one versus Dignitas. Today, you guys opted to pretty much give the Pantheon Rise, which I feel like no team globally does that. But you guys did that. It feels like you guys have your own. I don't know if you guys are experimenting. You have your own read on the meta, but how do you feel with the approach you guys are going in draft?
I mean, there's definitely things to consider when it comes to other regions, like what should you prioritize similar things to them and similar things um to like what your own region does, or should you think more about the matchup you're playing specifically? Should you think about just generally what your team's identity works and like what works for us? Um, for me personally, this week I just there's been a really really high bot priority throughout the world, and I think it's a little overrated. Um, which is one of the reasons we opted into the drafts that we did. I do think you have to play really well sometimes to make bot work, and I mean not to be throwing shade or anything, but I just didn't think SI was capable of that to make like a really proactive early game using Bard. So that's one of the reasons against this specific matchup, I wasn't like super high on banning Bard or super hard. I mean, I didn't really mind banning it or leaving it open, but I do think our meta read is like a little bit different to other teams. We're a little bit willing to play a bit of a heavier scaling thing, particularly in NA. I do think at first stand we were really scared of certain champs. We really did not want to play against Ryze at first stand, especially against Honkyu in the JDG series. We really didn't want to play against Ryze. But I mean, the priorities around the world have shifted a lot. I think SR did a good job of banning Skarner, but I think Skarner vs Pantheon seems really not bad for Skarner at all. Skarner seems really strong this patch. I think just generally speaking with the buffs that he received. And yeah, I think the meta has shaped up a little bit. It seems like to blind pick Ryze a lot of the time you need an Nivea ban. Not always, but it is something also that teams around the world do think about a lot. But yeah, I do think specifically for NA, you do have to think about who you're playing against a lot. I really learned that last week with the drafts we went for then, and even the drafts we went for today, even though I was feeling a lot of pressure in lane. The result kind of speaks for itself that there is advantages to taking these more scaling routes or just different routes, opponent specific routes, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I'm gonna push you a little because around the world, I think NA is like out of the four major regions, the slowest region. And then you guys are playing. You even said you guys realize you want to play these more scaly team compositions, and we've seen teams like Genji who prefer to play that way struggle, and we've seen teams who play early aggressive like BLG, like G2 did at MSI, and like Team Liquid are trying to emulate that as well. It seems like right now the meta is, hey, you need to be active early, where you guys are saying, hey, we actually don't need to do that. What's your read on that?
I mean, it's always hard to say. I do think that there is a high level of execution when you play champs, particularly Rise. Obviously, it can sometimes feel game breaking when you get one really good realm warp buff and you dive bot or you dive top, but you still have to play the game really well, I think. And depending on who you play against, like in game one that we played, I think Azir made like a pretty big mistake by TPing bots, but then as I was just so overeager to try and force the issue, and because of that, they just threw the whole game into like Azir's hands. And if they hadn't done that, the game really would have been tough, I will say. Like we're fighting a really big uphill battle there, but like I said, you really can't afford to make mistakes when you play these types of comps. And sometimes I think just based on prep or based on scrims, whatever it might be, we're just not willing to toe that line as much as other teams seem to be. I think I'm not sure honestly why so many teams in NA do pick the champs they do, like such execution heavy comps. I get it if like you're really experienced or your scrims are going really well with these champs or something like this, but I can tell you that most teams we play against scrims are not going well. So yeah, I'm surprised they opt into some of these comps. I think they're just reading into what other regions do a little bit too much.
Can I ask
But
you
it's
a
not to
little bit
say
more
that
about
the
that?
champs are bad, yeah.
Like, whenever I ask players about scrims, and like I hear that LYON are all in on early game when it comes to scrims. Like they play really aggressive early game, but then when you guys go to stage, you don't do that.
I mean, not sure if that's true. We do play aggressive in scrims, but I think we play aggressive generally speaking. And scrims are always going to be different to stage. We're going to take more risks and be, I don't know, just generally more experimental. Obviously, drops are going to differ as well because they're going to be a less refined version of what we're going to play on stage. We're going to try and find things that work for us with the smallest amount of risk on stage. Obviously, you want to win with the smallest amount of risk. That's just what it is. So if we end up playing at the end of the week something that's different to what we play in scrims, doesn't mean that we play 100% different in scrims or 100% different on stage. We try to play our champs for what they're supposed to do. And I mean, obviously, we're going to take more risky scrims, generally speaking, whether that be champions in draft or just gameplay wise. It's always going to look different. But especially towards the end of the week, you're going to try and think more specifically about what you're going to do against what opponents, drafts that you think you will play. Try to put opponents, whoever you might be scrimming, into situations that will kind of reflect what you're going to do on stage. But I'm not sure exactly what the narrative is in scrims around us. So
All right, makes sense. I think the narrative is like you guys and Team Liquid are the two best scrimming team, and I think also there's like another narrative around you where, I mean, I don't know how much you're in tune with social media or not, but there's like a lot
not
of people
very.
are okay, that's good. A lot of people are praising you for improving a lot, and a lot of people are saying, is he really improving? He's just playing with a lot more experience. Like you have Inspired on your team, you have Berserker on your, like, obviously you're going to improve at a higher rate when you have these experienced players, which shouldn't take away from the fact that you're actually improving. But there's also, like, when Berserker announced that he got his green card, that everybody was throwing either you or Dokla under the bus, and it was like, oh, finally we can get a better player. And it's like kind of forgetting how this team is built, or the fact that you are improving, and that, like, Busio, for example, 2 years ago looked bad, and then he became the best support in the West. Like, you can't really judge that way. So my question to you is, like, one, maybe talk a little bit about your improvement on this team, because it really does look like you've improved a lot, just compared to, like, last year or your stint on Dignitas. And two, is there additional pressure of, like, oh wow, we have an open import slot? Am I on the chopping block? Like, is that something you guys talk about?
I mean, obviously, I wouldn't talk about that. I don't think teammates would be very respectful humans to do something like that. But but honestly speaking, um, I mean, I've been very outspoken about this before, but I think you really do have to take or count your blessings, I suppose. You take one day at a time when you play with players like this. I'm very blessed. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be on this team. I agree with you that I really wanted to like kind of take the steps that Busio did. I do. I don't know if I would say he's like a role model, but I really love his story and his trajectory. I think when I watch him play, the no tilt mentality he has, who he was 2 years ago to who he is now, I think he's really like matured as a person, matured as a player. He's just something to look up to. And I've really had a trajectory now, an opportunity, I suppose, that kind of mimics what he was able to do. And when I look at my progress and I measure directly versus his, I think at this point in his season, I think he'd made more progress than I have. I think it's obvious to say, generally. I'm not sure what other people think. If you go directly back to however many months he was in like 2024 or whatever it might have been, maybe it doesn't look that crazy. But I really do have a lot of respect for Booster, and I mean it is tough. People say comparison is a thief of joy, right? But it's hard not to look at myself versus him. Not versus, I suppose, but compare myself to him. I wish nothing for the best for him, honestly. But yeah, I don't blame people for saying things like this. I think it makes sense, and I still do have a really long way to go. But like I said, there's really nothing you can do then other than just take it one step at a time and try to keep showing improvement. I really do have the infrastructure set up to do so. So if the only reason I don't improve can really be myself as far as I view it. So yeah, not really too much to think about on that front other than just keep chugging along.
All right, man. Thank you so much for the interview. And just like you said, keep chugging along. Don't compare yourself too much to other players, and just get the best you can and make NA proud. I think it's been a long time coming for you, and I'm glad that you're getting the success that you are.
Thank you so much.
All right, have a good one, man.
You too.
It's really cool to finally get to talk to Isles. Last time I talked to him was last year, which I guess isn't that too long ago. But it's nice for him to, the way he thinks about improvement. He's always been very self-critical of himself, and for him to really sit down and say, like, hey, if I'm not improving when I have all the systems and infrastructure for improvement all around me, then that's just on me, right? Where I was looking at it was like, oh, you finally have the systems for improvement. It's awesome that you're actually, in a place to improve. I wish I had more time with him. I wanted to ask about him in Rigby. I wanted to ask how he works with Rainover. I wanted to ask how he's working with Berserker and Inspired. I wanted to ask specifically about him and Dokla and, like, that sort of relationship. There was a lot that I wanted to talk about, but alas, I probably need to ask him for another interview where I can focus specifically on that. I also want to talk a lot about the games. I'm a Shopify fan. If you didn't know somehow, I'm a Shopify fan, so I was really interested in what he had, like, his thoughts on the game, and then his thoughts on how they specifically draft. Because, like I said, they gave us Rise Pantheon, which I feel like most teams wouldn't really want to do that. And I wanted to get more information. Again, my interviews are usually a lot more about the gameplay and the draft and the team dynamic, rather than personality wise or just getting to know the player. There are other people that do that a lot better than I do. I'm just a nerd about the game, man. I love the game. I love talking about the game. I love doing interviews. Like, sometimes I'm, like, tired. I'm like, oh man, I need to, like, I'm outside doing chores, running around, like, it's a really long day, and then I come back and I'm like, oh man, do I really have the energy to push myself? And then I get into the interview and I'm like, man, this is so much fun. Give me more interviews. So I really love doing interviews, and I'm very grateful for everybody who's been watching and leaving comments. A lot of you guys have been commenting. I try to respond to every single comment, so thank you so much for leaving those comments, for likes. The like ratio has gone up a lot. Thank you so much. And if you keep enjoying, or if you are enjoying the stuff, I'm going to keep pushing it out. So hit that subscribe button. It really does help the channel. And I'm hoping to see every single one of you guys at Worlds. I will be there, whether Shopify make it or not.